Microphone. All right. Hi. I hope that you're still in your listening spirit. I'm gonna be the last. I speak a lot, and if I speak too much, Isabella can give me time, and I will drop it at that slide that we stop there and just like wrap through the end. I am Masha from Wolt. Thank you for joining us here today. What I'm going to talk about the power of motion. Well, that was a clickbait title, so that you all came here. What exactly I'm going to talk about is the workflows, how we do motion design at Wolt in a product organization. So let's start. I am one of two people in the product motion design department. So just to clarify that we do have a design department. Some is sitting with these eyes, some is now with us here. All right. So we have a brand design department where they do all the marketing videos, and we have more video designers there. So we are on the product side. So we are only two of us. Um, and a small agenda. So quickly, I'm going to talk about the what is UI motion and what's cool about it, and then I'm going to show you one example of how we do it here. So it might help you, might not. Who knows? At least you came for pizza, and it's nice. And then the third one is where to look for that knowledge, which is very little because I tried to time my speech and I went over several times. So I decided to cut it to three slides in the end and just deal with that. All right, so a small disclaimer, I always tell it to everyone when I say I'm a motion designer. People think I am this. I am not this. My parents still think I am this. It's difficult for me to explain what it is, but I am this. So I design, I prototype all the interactions in the digital products. And people who know it, awesome. Uh, so what I kind of explain on a higher level is that motion is that like the helping hand to guide your user through the product. So from the beginning to the end, whether they came here to, to get to buy the flight tickets, to get Uber, or to buy food. So that it's something that guides through the whole flow, and kind of stays there, as a helper. I am repeating myself, sorry. And another thing is that it's more of a like, if you interact with the product, I really don't like when the products are very like cold stone like. I like that the product interacts with you back. So imagine if you talk to a person, it's not like you have like zero emotions on your face, zero gestures, and you just like speak the words. So motion is something for me that is that interactivity part when the user interacts with the app or with a web or anything. And I whew, I categorize it into two sides. So the functional side and the delightful side. So the functional one is more like, to show where the user came from, how to get back, to provide the feedback, like, I'm uploading stuff, I'm loading it, I'm getting you information you requested, to indicate affordance, like think of the hover. When you hover on something, it kind of shows that I can be clicked. So it kind of shows you already before you click and see, can it be clicked or not? It's also a very great tool to focus when it's important because we are still people wired to notice all these moving parts in our vision. So when you want, you can also use motion to focus on the important areas. And motion actually is being proven to minimize the waiting period. So when people have to wait for something that is loading, when you show motion there, they think that they waited less. So it's like the actual latency and perceived latency. So they think that they didn't wait as long as they waited in actual. So they are less stressed in a way. And the delightful side of that is that, it creates this polish of the app. So imagine that you have the app that is one of many apps that do the same thing. But, if you add this, it kind of like steps up a little bit in a game. It also brings the brand. So if you have the brand of your company, you can also utilize it through motion, whether you are a bank, so it would be very elegant and smooth, or you're a toy, a children's toy aggregator or something, so that would be whimsical, or a game. And of course, engagement. So, sorry. Engagement is that, when users love using your product, they will be more likely to come back. Uh, and maybe here also so small disclaimer is that it's not only the motion. Motion is one of those pillars that bring everything together. All right. Second part, how we do it. I will drink a little bit. Sorry, yeah, because I'm getting my throat dry. Okay, so as Antonia mentioned that we have how many product teams? But one motion designer, which is two now. So we don't sit within the team. We sit within the whole product design organization, and we help all the teams when they need it. So we are like Andrew in UX copywriting. So when we have a project, we come in, we do the stuff, we do the handoff, we do QA, and we go away and we help some other teams. It doesn't have to be the same in your team. It's just it's not something like, it's not such a big job to do in one team. So we do a lot of things and we kind of handle to unify the experience, but also it's about the time. Like it's such a small part to do this motion that you really don't need to have a motion designer. Like it's just Wolt is so blessed to have me here. But it can be done by the engineer or for the product designer. So it's not something like a second job, second 8 hours a day to do this thing for you. Yeah. So that's at least what we do at Wolt. All right. So that's my motto: show, don't tell. I like to show. I prepare previews. I show it to people that are like stakeholders in the project. It's also easier to sell the idea. It's easier to communicate to engineers what you want to do. And it's also maybe nicer to have some playground before we ship it, before we start coding, so we can test so many different variations. And it's actually easier to test them and faster than to test them in coding. Okay. So here are the prototyping tools I managed to download from logos from the internet. There are many more of them. I just got tired cutting them off and pasting them there. So, they all like so many of them, and they're categorized from like, the price, the affordance, the learning curve and everything. But to be honest, it's up to you what you want to learn to work in. So, for example, Figma can also, it also, I forgot the word, it also allows you to do the motion transition there, using some plugins. And as my colleague said, that if he sees a person doing really cool transitions in Figma, we probably will hire that person. I don't know. It's like amazing. So I gave up doing stuff in Figma. It's too much for me. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. But what we used in Wolt is that we use two applications. It's a Principle for Mac, which has been around for years, ever since I started doing motion design for products, and also a Product-Eye. So there are two different ones. We utilize them in kind of in a depending on the project. But I have to say I'm a big sucker for Principle for Mac, even though you cannot put a keyboard, you cannot type there, you cannot use the camera there. Still, I like it. And there's a note is that we use them not for this full-scale user testing. It's not so easy to create something for the user testing with all these projects. Prototype is easier, but Principle is not. So we focus on some flows and behaviors when we already decided what to do, and we start focusing on how to polish this transition. But of course, you can use them in yours for the user testing as well. Yeah, so I have one example for you. It's very small because there wasn't so enough time to show you stuff. Um, so this is, as I told you, that we collaborate with designers and engineers. So we have product designers, we have UX designers, service designers, no matter how you call it in your company. So they already decide the wireframes, they decide the UI. So they see that, okay, there's something that is need in motion. And they ask us to jump in. Okay, I need to drink again, sorry. All right, this is a screenshot from Figma file. And the use case here is that we introduce these item cards on the venue pages, and you can actually quick add an item without opening it, browsing through it and clicking on add to basket. You can actually go and test it in your app. It's already live. So there, the use case scenario was how this quick add quantity picker will appear, how you start adding them, and how it kind of, interacts with the user's fingers. All right, so this is, as I told you, I'm a big fan of Principle of Mac. This is a screenshot of my working file. It's messy as I am, but because I'm the only person, I don't need to share my files with anyone. I don't need to clean them up. So that's a good thing. But what I want to show you is that it's very easy just to create a transition, to duplicate it, to test a different way of transition. And then the best thing is that you have this preview window that you can plug to your phone, and you actually can tap and it will interact onto your trigger. So it's not something like people see as a preview. They can actually test it themselves and see what is the, like, is it too fast? Is it too slow? Do you see it under the finger? And all the other details that maybe it's better to feel it yourself than to see like a preview video on your phone. Then I add a little bit of magic, and then I get this. So this is my final outcome or output, what I do. So when we do the prototyping and testing, we go through different ideas, what we have. When designers already design these views, they already have something like an idea in their head, what they want to do. So we can maybe try, this and that, then, tap it with our phones, see what's good, and then decide, okay, we like this, let's settle on that. So I do have a preview that I always store on our drive, and then I give this as a handoff to our engineers. So the handoff is that each individual interaction with its own timeline and description of what's moving and how it's moving. So it's much easier for them to see and kind of read and scan through and then transform it into the code. So that's kind of my part, is this intermediate part between I don't code, I don't design. Sometimes I design, but mostly everything is handled by our product designers. So question, how many individual animations and transitions do you see here? I don't have this fancy app, so you can shout if you want. 550. Any takers? 6. Nice. 3. All right. Yeah? 4. Cool. Okay. You will see it on the next screen. It's actually 5. Who said 5? Yay! All right. So we will go one by one with you very quickly. So the first one is that the quantity picker opens up from the default from the plots. The second one is when you collapse the quantity picker, when you select minus, so it doesn't recognize any amount of items added, so it goes back to default plus. Whew. The third one is when you click plus and minus, so you start selecting, adding or removing the items in the quantity picker. The fourth one is the collapsing quantity picker, but already with the amount of items added to your basket. And the last one is when you expand the quantity picker, but from the added amount of items in your basket. So you can add 3, and then you decide that, okay, I want to maybe remove it or, add more. So 5 individual transitions. Maybe we don't talk about this, this also bounce. I'm sorry if you counted. Maybe Antonia counted 15 those bounces. Okay, it's fine then. Because that already has been added before. I was talking mostly on the item card. All right. So let's maybe not talk through all 5 of them because it will take some time. Let's pick one when the quantity picker expands from the added amount of items to this editing mode. So some action points when you design something, you don't just animate for the sake of animation. So you always need to follow the function. You need to understand what's there and what we need to animate. Because, it's like sometimes we don't animate stuff. It's fine. I don't cry in the corner. I kind of have my, judgmental justice thinking, and it goes well. Then when you animate something, you need to keep the connection between two states, or at least the illusion of it. So if it moves, it needs to kind of connect. So if this 3 that was, expanding there, it kind of needs to connect between two states. It shouldn't just disappear and appear somewhere else, because if people understand that they disappear and appear, they might think that it's another element. They start thinking what just happened. Is it, and then actually they go away from their action, what they wanted to do, to analyzing what is happening on the screen. Then you need to make it not too fast, so they kind of recognize what is happening, but also not too slow that they will be bored by, adding the click, and it's like, opening up very slowly, but very in a nice fluid animation. So you need to kind of understand what's the sweet point there. They also, you need to do it swift animations if they're not very decorative animation. For example, we have our illustrations, and there we do all this different follow throughs, and this Disney's 12 principles of Disney animation. So we utilize them there, but not here. We really need to make it like straight to the point. Yeah, next one is that we are using the appropriate easing curves. We have the library of different easings. So easing is this acceleration and deceleration, because elements in real life don't move with a linear speed. So we also try to replicate that for our users. And the last one is that when users get the new information, when something is entering the screen, we can use appropriate delays and maybe offset something, make something like an anchor element when we want to focus on that. But when they want just to, cancel it or to go away, we don't take that transition we created for the entrance and just reverse it, because then it would be very, very long, which is actually number 3. You need to use appropriate exposure duration. So we make it swiftly and sometimes even faster, like to go away, because they just dismissing that action. They don't need to see what's going next and what's following it. All right, so back to our use case. So what do we have here? So we have 3 that is expanded. So I'm thinking, okay, I need to animate the background expands. Then I need to animate the amount moving from, this in circle to the middle. Then I need to show plus minus. So 3 actions that I need to do to get from here to there. So using principle, of course. So I basically connect these 2 screens. And this is the very basic default when you connect these 2 screens. This is what principle gives you. They use 300 milliseconds. They use the default easing curve, and they basically animate 3. They expand it. They show the plus and minus where they are from. But I look at the preview and I'm like, I'm not feeling it yet. And that's something that unfortunately I cannot explain, like what's there, what's it, what's that oomph that you need to feel, like that is right, like really well done there. So it's like maybe I play around with it and I see, oh, this is very good. So it's like the sweet point that is like swift. It's explaining what's going on, but it's also maybe we, as a brand, we are friendly, we are playful, so it needs to be a little bit playful as well. So I start going, around these keyframes that you see there and seeing what we can delay, what we can make faster, what we can maybe change the easing curve. So it's not like going with one easing, but maybe it goes, slow in the beginning and faster in the end, and so on. So I just start playing around, and then I just basically change components to make it slightly faster. So you can see that the background that is being expanded, it goes to only 200 milliseconds because it's such a small item. Oh, good. Yeah, such a small item that it doesn't need to actually take 300 milliseconds there. No one will probably notice that. No one will say, oh, it's 200 milliseconds, not 150 and not 250. But, it's nice to make your job well paid. I need to bring food to the table. So I'm always making 200 milliseconds. I need to make it 200 milliseconds. But in reality, it's just such a small thing that it can open up in 200 milliseconds. If you try 100, it would be so fast. It's like in a feeling. You understand it. It's in a feeling that you just try and you're like, okay, I don't know what's happened. And then with delay, plus and minus, I delayed the appearance there. I also scaled them a little bit. No one will notice that. That's the best part of my job. Motion is not noticeable when you use the app, which is the best. But yeah, so when people that, what sometimes we hear from the user tests when we ask like, okay, so you have so many different delivering companies in your area because we have so many countries that we operate in. And we ask like, what do you think about them? Like, why do you like Wolt? And I say, I don't know. I just feel like it's this feeling that is like nicer. And I think, oh, it's motion. It's for sure 100% it's motion. It's like I am the best motion designer in the world. Yeah, so that's why I use delays, guys. Yeah. So this is the comparison. I don't think you will notice much here, but I cannot live with the left version. The right version for me is much, much nicer. Another thing that when you're doing these things, you need to think of the consistency. So we have this quantity picker in the item cards that you see on the menu, but we also have this quantity picker in the card. And this is the example where one uh, one element animates kind of animates the same or behaves the same way. So you kind of think, okay, I don't want to create another version of behavior here because we're already using it there. So I'm trying to think what's the best version for them both, because users strive for consistency. They don't like, they feel that one thing does one way, another thing does another way, and they kind of like, I feel like it creates the feeling that it's maybe not very comfortable to use. And the best thing in principle versus, for example, Protopie is another tool we use, is that you have this timeline scroller, whatever, picker, something. So you can actually use your mouse and scroll very, very slowly. And you can see here all the small things, what is happening. So when I connect the states and when I define the rules, I of course go plug it to my phone, click it and see how it feels. But I maybe sometimes when I'm making them like when there's so many things and I want to check what's actually happening, I can go to that and just like and I see, okay, maybe we can offset something because maybe number 3 didn't go yet from its part, and then we because I want to show plus not when number 3 is still there. So it's not like a messy, dissolved kind of action there. So that's why I like this in principle. And this is the handoff to developers. We store it in Figma next to the screens, the UIs that product designers create. So it's same. So each interaction I explain sometimes what's happening. Sometimes I say, some notes like in the preview, you cannot see the keyboard typing, but imagine if it typed, something like that. Then I have a preview here, the link that is in Google Drive, that MP4 files that you saw before, and this is the timeline. And the timeline is it. Sorry, it's maybe not such a good resolution, but what it says is that Pick a background, color from Wolt 100 to Wolt 8. Okay, that's color. It's not very interesting. Let's see what else. I cannot read anything. Ah, ah. All right. So basically, what I say is that number of or name of the layer, which property has changed. It can be position, scale, rotation, alpha property, and then how it changed. I either say 8 pixels up, or to the end of the screen, or to the beginning of, or to the middle of this of the height, etc., etc. Then I describe the easing curve because we have the library. I just say the name, and they can use the name, and then I say the duration. So for how long it actually moves. So it's much easier for engineers to recreate the same transition without checking the preview and guessing what's happening there. So they can have a preview as something to always look at, to kind of compare what's going on in my preview and what's going on in their screen. But they can read this and kind of transport it into their code. Just a moment. I need to drink again because it's very dry. Just a moment. All right. And another thing, something that I want to note is that I don't code, so it's not code snippets. It's just a human language that everyone understands. It's like 8 pixels up, position, rotation to 30 degrees clockwise. And then engineers transform it into their language, in their coding language, because we have so many different apps with so many different languages. We use the native apps for both iOS and Android. We use I have a T. All right, we have a React Native, we have web, we have everything. But this one is uniform. Everyone can read it and transform it. So I don't need to learn yet another coding language just to talk to engineers. Works for me, works for them, because sometimes it's also interesting for them to see how they can make it happen in their logic of their programming language. And this is maybe just the overview how I do it. Sometimes I put this like notes like, okay, it seems very difficult, but if you can, please do it. And if you can't, we can just move everything here. It's fine. Just move as one object. It's fine. Yeah. So I leave them notes there, and then they talk to me. So what I didn't include here is that we also have this QA session where they show me, or they even give me the build, and I test it around, and I see. There's one funny story. On a daily, one engineer said, today I checked Masha's specs, and she had 19 different transitions there. So I'm going to make 18 and see if she notices one gone. I did notice. But I'm not notice like, oh, you changed linear to something. I say it doesn't feel right. Okay, can it be that you used the wrong easing curve? And they check, no. I was like, okay, is the timing right? The timing, like they specified, like, sorry, something, okay, let's change it. And then we change it. And we can also change it on the go. So this is not like set in stone and Bible that they need to follow. They can always say that this is too difficult. Let's make it somehow easier. So we don't compromise on quality, but we can change it in order to make the coding time faster. So instead of 2 weeks, you do it in 2 days. So yeah, so this is something that is like very open discussion between me and engineers, how we can make it happen. All right, so the last one, where to look. Uh, this material motion design, if you don't know it, go there because they are amazing. I learned with them as well. I came from the motion graphics, which is this, animated marketing videos and the Instagram ads. So the thing is that they not only show you, they explain you why and how it's done. They also have the same timelines that I'm using in their examples. And the best is that they say do and don't. So they say that this is good and this is bad and why. And this is like, I don't know, you don't need to go to university to learn it. Just go there, open it, and it's fine. And also they have a component section, which is not in this motion. And for each component, they also have different behaviors. And you can also communicate to your engineers by giving an example. Hey, this looks like our search field. Can we utilize the same? And it's easier for them, so you don't need to prototype anything. but they already see, and actually material also gives the code snippets for engineers, what they can do faster. Okay, so we have the Apple human interface guidelines. It exists. They have a motion section there, but come on, guys, use animation and motion effects judiciously. What does it mean? Like they have it in a very high thinking, like, don't overuse animation. What is overusing animation? I have no idea. So they don't have any examples, nothing. I'm a big Apple fan. I don't think that I can ever go to switch to Android. I love what they're doing, but the explanation sucks. It's like you cannot learn anything there, but you can, of course, read it. And the last one, copy from others. Open the apps you love, make a screen capture, scroll throughout the timeline and see what they're doing. I am doing it on a daily basis. I have like my phone is full of the screen captures from videos from different apps that I like because when they do it fast, you don't notice what's happening, but it works. When you make a screen capture, you check frame by frame in a video, and then you will see and you will understand what was the thinking behind it. So I don't mind. I think everyone does, so do it. Yeah, that's all. Over to Antonio if no one has any questions. We have questions. All right. We have a mic.
Thank you so much. Really great keynote. Really liked it. Very technical and detailed. That's how it should be. So I have a lot of questions actually. We can start with a very high level as Apple guidelines. So first of all, when you design an interaction out, think of it an interaction. Like, do you consider something else rather than animation? Like, for example, like of course there is animation, but then there's haptic, there's sound. Do you consider that holistically, or do you sort of have other guys helping you doing that? And I guess you can answer that one, and we can continue.
Yeah, that's a very good question. We do think of haptics already together because haptics is also one way to communicate with the user. So sometimes you can wiggle something, but sometimes you can just make a haptic there. You don't need to wiggle anything pretty much. So that's also part of the things. And when we discuss it with engineers, I say use haptics here. Like, I can put a note, but of course I don't prototype haptics. It's not possible yet with principle. I kind of, know the principles of haptics in my head. So we kind of discuss, when to use it. And because the thing is that you cannot overuse it much. Yeah, sounds. Good question. Not that I have came across working at Wolt with the sounds. We do use sounds. I think having the sound, if you apply sound to the movement needs to kind of, have the same feeling of the sound. So it is important when you combine them together. So if the sound is very like dull and maybe prolonging, but the movement is very fast and brisk, it doesn't kind of correlate together in user's head. So you need to also align them together if you are building for the sounds.
Yeah, I mean, all of those aspects are in a way a part of one product. So it's not that you can design sound from haptic from this animation separately, because like sound just augments haptic, and you
Yeah.
kind of get more directed to
Yeah.
the product.
Exactly.
My second question is kind of common because you mentioned that you don't like the cold products like that have no soul or something like that. But actually, this is like one of the best. I think one of the best automotive brands. Porsche's products are very cold, very functional, and very direct. So sometimes that might be a feature in a way, and that's what really sells. They are having huge premium over other car companies.
Yeah.
So
So what's your question there?
yeah, I mean, sometimes there is a context like sometimes cold product might work as well as like hot
Yeah.
product and fancy product. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that I don't know Porsche. I haven't talked to them. They have been around, the block for a while, so they might not even try to win the popularity with movement and motion and everything. Um, but their brand is that they are, you know, like how did you describe it?
It's a very functional, direct,
Functional,
and
direct.
connected. I think that's
Exactly.
what it gives.
Yeah. So if you think of the brand, you also need to include the movement as the brand dictates. So they are like luxurious. So they are not gonna use, popping up, overshooting something there in their materials and their. I don't know if they have the app. They probably they have a
Of course.
website, I guess. Yeah. Okay, sorry, not a Porsche app user, so I might check it out and give you some notes. But I don't know. Maybe they don't even need that. Maybe they don't see it as something that is kind of crucial for their company. I don't know. Maybe they just haven't come across a good designer that makes it happen for them.
Well, I mean, I
Ah,
mean,
you are you are the
they,
designer.
they have, like everything, very integrated design, but they just don't overdo it. Like, I mean, there is a place
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
cold design as well.
Yeah. I think that the point. Sorry, Antonia. The point is that overdoing it, your brand is luxurious, so I wouldn't make it super poppy friendly, something for the luxurious brand. I would try to make it very sleek, very to the point. When your brand is friendly, you can maybe be more open in the way how elements interact with you.
I will interrupt. Let's take this chat after this official part with like a couple of lonkeros. Let's take one more question and then we're gonna go to raffle.
Yeah, because we have some prizes to give. Okay, then I will just repeat your question. Just make it short. All right. So the question is that we have so many different apps. We have app, the consumer app, the career app, the merchant app. So what does delightful mean for some of them or all of them? All right. So I think it's a subjective matter, delight. We have a target audience for the consumer app starting from 18 to 65. It's very difficult to find this what's delightful for 65-year-old and what the youngsters that were brought up on Snapchat feel boring. So it's very, very difficult. I wish we had maybe a bit better like brand, like with a more narrow target audience. Then I can just focus on them. But the other apps, so the consumer app gets all the basically like super polishness and shine because that's the user used for using for ordering food or other retail products. Couriers have a very different goal in mind. They need to deliver it, so they don't want to have this flying yuho there saying good morning to you all here. How are you doing? So it's maybe straight to the point, and the motion is straight to the point. Merchants are a bit different. Imagine the very messy kitchen. They have clients coming from the door. They have different, fedora board, whatever. Together, they're getting those orders, so they need quickly to accept it, quickly to make food, and quickly to also to talk to other people. So their needs are different. So we are having it in a different way, but it's not only motion; it's also design is different there. So motion supplements the design, supplements kind of brings it together to the whole experience, to the design. So delight there probably would be a little bit different from the delight in the consumer app. It wouldn't be like, yay, you made one more order ready, and you have a fanfares in your app. So it's a bit different. Yeah, yeah. And we have B2B products that don't use custom motion. There's plenty of like out of the pocket motions already done. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel. If you have a drop down that opens down, don't think that just because I know how to use prototyping tool, I would make it appear from left and going up and then doing this thing. So use the kind of your thinking, what is already standard behavior, what are the patterns people are used to, and that's what you maybe should start with. Yeah. I have keynote. I don't know if I'm allowed to get one more question. Is it short? You have 5 seconds. Promotion? No, I just know it all. No, okay. We A/B test, not motion. We A/B test of course, designs, the UX thing and everything. I think that motion, I don't know. Sometimes I A/B test. I just do these versions. We A/B test probably right in the team or around the office, or I do it with my friends also. But probably it's not something that you make the A/B test with users, hire them, start talking to them, make the sessions, and use the time. So no, we don't A/B test motion. Answered shortly. Yeah, we do it inside though. Yeah. Yeah, I guess we're gonna go back to Antonia, and we have some prizes for you.
Let's clap a little bit for Masha. Yes.